Xolani Dube is a political analyst from the Xubera Institute for Research and Development. He joins us now to discuss this. A very good evening to you, Mr. Dube, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, as we mentioned there, Premier Makhura will step down as a member of the Gauteng provincial legislature and as a premier. That's on Thursday. What legacy do you believe he leaves behind?
I suspect a number of people in Gauteng, possibly they are saying good riddance, because the state of Gauteng currently is in a very bad one. And the person who has been at the helm of dragging Gauteng to this rabbit hole is David Makhura himself. Remember that David was the secretary before he ascended to the premiership. And so he can't be exonerated to the rod that he is so entrenched in Gauteng. And so I suspect number of citizens of Gauteng, they are saying good riddance. Under his leadership, we just recently experienced what you call it Zamazama, and also the death of people who were really honorable citizens in that province. And also the COVID corruption happened under him. The issue of life testimony happened under him. The destruction of the municipalities happened under him. And so I don't think that he can simply beat his chest and say he is a good leader. There is something
perhaps, Mr. Dube, let's zero in on some of those. The former Gauteng Health Department Chief Financial Officer, Xubera Institute, saying that Makhura should take the blame for the 42.8 million rand PPE scandal, arguing that the circular which centralized the COVID-19 related procurement that included personal protective equipment was unlawful, and that the Premier himself should be held personally liable for the province's losses. Now, we saw the SIU investigation and various court cases, but do you believe this tainted him?
Look, I think the SIU must after him. He must prove his innocence if there are allegations against him. And so he is just an ordinary citizen like all of us. He must subject himself to the law institutions of our country. And it leaves a very bad taste to us as South African that a premier can be associated with such kind of a scandal where an innocent life was lost, And so I think he must be at the forefront to say, look, I want to clean my name here. And we can't simply forgive him by simply being removed from that position. He must go and say to the South African law authorities, here I am. I want to prove that I am clean, I am not tainted. Because look, in the ANC, they always reward these raw people, and so I hope that he's not going to be rewarded to the highest position, being a cabinet or in Cyril Ramaphosa's administration, because I think there's so much that is hanging around him. Look, there are also a number of SIU investigation that he never took the people of Gauteng into confidence and revealed them, such as the one of so-called the one that involved the Department of Economic Development while it was under the leadership of Maile. And also, it also involved Pulemabe. He never went out and tell us what is happening. And also remember recently, there was also that scandal of IT in the Department of Treasurer. He never tell us about the outcome of that scandal. And so I think he's someone who was trying to protect other people, but at the end of the day, as we know, that there is no honor among the thieves, and then he was being thrown out from the back wagon of those thieves.
So I know you spoke about a a number of things. I was going to mention an incident in terms of a particular community that was affected, and I wanted to find out just how much of personal responsibility he bears as a leader, or whether or not it's collective responsibility. It's just that we are running out of time. So if you could just reflect on that when you answer this next question. So there has been speculation that the Gauteng Provincial Executive Committee is unlikely to solicit support for the outgoing Premier to gain a position among the ANC's top 6 officials at the party's elective Congress in December. Your thoughts, is it because they view him as having failed, or is it just as a fallout of the slates that we're seeing?
Look, you have to understand that in each and every province, there is a cabal that rules that in any province. And so in Gauteng, there is this cabal known as the Alexandra one. And so these are the people who manufactured or who created him, you know. And then at the end of the day, he grew a very big head. He was no longer listening to this cabal. And so this cabal simply threw him out of the weapon. And so I don't think that he's got any future if the province is not there supporting him. And so I think to a certain extent, he might be an additional member, but he won't get a prominent position in the National Executive Committee of the ANC. He might end up being just a mere additional member. And then look, he might be the blue boy of Cyril Ramaphosa, and then Cyril Ramaphosa might reward him with a cabinet post-2024. But if he's going to make sure that Cyril is cement and solidify his position or as the president of the ANC in this coming national conference of the ANC in Nasrec.
Let's look ahead, the road ahead. The Adiwele faction has had a significant presence not only in the PCs of KwaZulu-Natal, we've seen that in Gauteng as well, and it is calling for the old guard to move on. Does Panyaza Lesufi represent this desire?
Look, he's not part of them. You know, there is a man who's got this conniving snake there in Gauteng by name of Paul Mashatile. I think he is the godfather now of Gauteng politics. He's the one who is going to decide what is happening in this in that province, you know, because we know it very well that even David Makhura once was his boy, but look where he is today, David Makhura, because he went against his will. And so the issue of Adiwele, you have to understand that it is a kind of it's the stormtroopers of Paul Mashatile. And so the only objective that they want is for Paul Mashatile to become the deputy president, because we know it very well that once Paul Mashatile becomes the deputy president, he will be de facto Prime Minister of South Africa, and then Cyril Ramaphosa might become a lame duck president, and then within 2 years in the presidency, and then they must simply recall him. You know the ANC template, you know, and so we might have.
Lesufi himself, I'm sorry to rush you, it's just that we are running out of time and I need to ask this. Lesufi himself, he's garnered or honed a particular public profile as someone who's hands-on, an activist for the marginalized. Will this come through in his leadership as Premier, especially as you say, it's important to enjoy the support or even be seen or behave as a protege of those who have a stranglehold on power in the province?
No, there is a leash around Lesufi's neck, you know, and so he's not going to roam freely. He's no longer in like the Department of Education here. And so I think that leash is going to determine where he's supposed to go and where he's not supposed to go. And so I think it was very strategic even in the past conference to give him this kind of a hollow position of being a chairperson. And also this thing of being a premier, one can simply say is an upward demotion kind of an appreciation to his premiership. But at the end of the day, I think that's the end of his faction. And then the Adiwele is the one that is running the show now.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. Xolani Dube, political analyst from the Xubera Institute for Research and Development.